away in 2005. It's pedal to the metal time as we burn nitro in Juiced. We get to meet a new friend from a familiar world. And we pick out the big games coming your way in the next 12 months. But before all that, we wipe away Lucifer's tears in Devil May Cry 3. It's a return to the PS2 for Devil May Cry and its ice-cool hero, seen here fending off demons while munching nonchalantly on a slice of pizza. Half demon, half human Dante faces off against his brother Virgil in the third instalment of Capcom's stylish action-adventure series. Although this is B-roll footage, we did have a chance to play a couple of levels of the game at this year's E3 and Tokyo game shows, and thankfully the early signs are it's a return to form from Dante. As you'd expect with a Devil May Cry title, ferocious sword and gunplay is still its raison d'etre. But after the disappointment of Devil May Cry 2, Capcom has rebuilt the game engine from scratch, offering greater control over Dante's acrobatics. We caught up with the game's producer, Tsuyoshi Tanaka, to talk about the introduction of a new RPG-style fighting system.
We created a new fighting system where you can choose your favoured fighting style. For example, if you like to fight at close quarters, you use the sword or your hands more. If you like to fight at long distances, use the guns. If you're not that good at fighting, you can use both guns and sword. And of course, use some of Dante's more exotic moves to avoid the enemy.
Graphically, the game already looks like a huge improvement over its predecessors, with impressive numbers of bad guys on screen all lining up patiently to receive their punishment. New moves such as the Million Stab and the Aerial Rave are set to be included. The prospect of clearing a screen with a hail of bullets or a whirlwind of flashing steel has us all excited already. Devil May Cry 3 should be with us in March, and you can be sure we'll have a full review then. After a stellar year of top titles like Halo 2 and GTA San Andreas in 2004, what can gamers expect in 2005? Join us now as we dust off our crystal ball and predict the biggest games and developments for the coming year. With the final Star Wars movie prequel waiting in the wings, LucasArts have been busy adding the final touches to a Star Wars-themed first-person shooter, Republic Commando. All the action staples are present and correct. Elite Special Forces unit, check. A wide variety of exotic weapons and equipment, check. But in how many shooters do you get the chance to blow the fur off an 8-foot-tall Wookiee? Republic Commando also throws squad-based command into the mix, with 3 clone troopers following your orders no matter how suicidal. An updated version of the Unreal game engine is at the core of the game, and one-touch squad controls should help to provide faster 3-man combat. Fantastic! We got all the way through a Star Wars game preview without claiming the forces with this title. Republic Commando battles the dark side on Xbox and PC in March. With so many games involving heavy ordnance hitting consoles in 2004, you'd be forgiven for thinking the beat-em-up has had its day. That is until Tekken 5 makes its comeback on the PS2. Since Tekken debuted in 1995, martial arts fans have been roundhouse kicking, body slamming and pummeling their opponents into the ground. The 5th entry in the series doesn't vary from that formula a great deal. But Namco has shoehorned an entirely new game and graphics engine into Tekken 5. This allows for a greater variety of fluid combos and killer moves. Fans of the previous title complained the action was too slow, and the new engine should address that problem, meaning beat and fist should become a blur in combat. favourite characters from previous Tekken titles like Nina Williams and Kazuya will make their return. But look out for new characters such as Fen Wai and Raven, who looks like he's nicked Wesley Snipes' Blade wardrobe. Namco are keeping tight-lipped about online play, but we'll keep you posted on developments and give you a full review when the game's released in the summer. The Grand Theft Auto series' success seems to have inspired LucasArts' upcoming military-themed third-person adventure. The Dogs of War in Mercenaries can hijack enemy vehicles, including tanks and helicopters, in their quest to earn cash from taking out the trash. The action takes place in a near-future North Korea, where your guns for hire can explore huge playing environments on their search to bring down 52 high-ranking bad guys. Mercenaries makes use of the Havoc physics engine, which was last seen in Half-Life 2, so everything in those environments can be interacted with or violently obliterated. The usual array of heavy firepower, including rifles and missile launchers, are available, and if a situation gets too tricky, point a laser at a hardcore target and call up a bunker-busting airstrike. We can't wait to get our hands on this title in the spring, as it could be a real step forward for third-person actioners. Join us later on in the show as we continue to look at some of the big games for 2005, and we catch a glimpse of next-generation console developments. Time now to wrap up everything there is to know in gaming news. Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, put Vin Diesel's company Tygon on the gaming map. No surprise then that a Riddick sequel was in the works. A more intriguing Tygon project comes from an idea of X-Men director Bryan Singer and features a Secret Service agent assigned to protect the President. House of the Dead was one of the worst movies ever made, and yet they're still going to make a sequel. This time, one Michael Hurst is directing. You might have heard of his previous effort, Baby Juice Express. Then again, you probably haven't. Commando plan to continue their campaign for world domination next year with new funding. Despite not doing so well in this year's WCG, the Swedish clan have attracted a major sponsorship deal with hardware manufacturers Razer. EA are already developing games for the Xbox 2. Criterion, the developers behind Burnout 3, are working on a first-person shooter named Black, and Digital Illusions are working on a new installment in their Battlefield series called Modern Combat. Well, we've seen all the big sequels we've been waiting for this year. It's time for the rumour mill to start grinding all over again. The man in charge of Valve, Gabe Newell, has told Swedish magazine Game Reactor that Half-Life 3 is already in the works. Allegedly, this time out, the game's hero will be none other than your female sidekick, Alex.
Here, let me buy you a drink.
Also, the game will give further explanation of the aliens' involvement in the series. And potentially good news for anyone slightly disappointed with the ending of Halo 2. The American official Xbox magazine has speculated that there will be a Halo 2.5 release to coincide with the launch of Xbox 2. The rumour has it that the game would have a reworked ending and updates on the multiplayer mode. Well, there's no harm in hoping, is there?
Stay with the Master Chief. He'll know what to do.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Now here's a preview you don't see every day. A game so far from release, it doesn't even have a publisher yet. In fact, you're watching the very footage created to attract one. Deadlands is a mix of Western action and classic horror, loosely based on a popular real-life RPG. We met with Scott West of Head First Productions to find out more about the game and its somber hero.
Basically, he died and he's been brought back from the dead. He's been possessed by an evil spirit and he's now seeking vengeance on the Seven Sins gang who originally killed him. We're using the license roughly. What we're doing is taking the level locations and the world, the substance and the core of it, And what we've done is made it more mainstream for the mass market appeal, to be honest. There are still role-playing elements in there, but what we've not done is made a role-playing game. We've made a pure action game with adventure and exploration and puzzle-solving elements in it.
True to form, even this early footage is full of Wild West-inspired hideousness. If the giant demon grizzly wasn't enough of a clue, then take in the ghostly locomotives, phantom gunslingers, and look, a monstrous crow. We asked Scott about the ongoing visual development of the game.
The visual style is it's been something that's been concept worked quite a lot, and that the art team had a very clear vision what they wanted to do, and that was meld the two genres of Western and horror together. What we didn't want to do was create a gothic horror setting or just a completely Western setting, which would be, you know, too generic really for the type of product we've done.
Could devilish westerns be the next big thing? Will the next wave of evil cowboys be enough to send John Wayne galloping to the toilet in fear? I don't know, but if any one game can do it, Deadlands stands a decent chance. Still to come on Gamer TV, we continue to gaze into our crystal ball and look at what's coming to a small screen near you. And we pay our second visit of the show to the Wild West, only this cowboy is no Clint Eastwood.
Gaming experience with Blue Yonder broadband internet.
Welcome back to Gamer TV. It's off to Oddworld now to meet a strange new gunslinger. Oddworld is back, but not exactly as we know it. If the cutscenes and gameplay in this preview version are anything to go by, though, Xbox owners are in for a tasty treat when it's released. Unfortunately, the PS2 version has been canned. The weird inhabitants of Oddworld remain, as does its quirky humour. But our old heroes, Munch and Abe, have been replaced by a Clint Eastwood-style bounty hunter, known only by the name of Stranger. Very little is revealed about Stranger at the beginning of the game, except that he badly needs a doctor. He also badly needs some work, ridding Oddworld of outlaws.
Never liked guns. Oh man, why'd you have to do that?
The game will be much more violent than previous Oddworld outings, but it's cute violence. The idea will be to beat up the bad guys, but not kill them. Once you've knocked them out, you simply hoover them up with a handy, bandit vacuum and cash them in at the bounty store. It's mainly played from a third-person point of view, where Stranger can spin and headbutt to take enemies out, but a crucial part of the game is first-person mode, where he uses a crossbow. Instead of arrows, the increasingly suspect Stranger will fire a variety of tiny animals. The chipmunk, for instance, can be used to distract enemies, causing them to run over to stop its jabbering. There's also a puke-inducing skunk bomb, and you'll even be able to snipe with a mini cannonball called a thud slug. Giving new meaning to the words live ammo, you'll actually have to hunt and capture your furry projectiles. You'll also have to regenerate your own health with some self-performed CPR. Plenty of platform and puzzle action is still planned for the game, using Stranger's high jumping abilities and his cuddly weapons to access new areas. Even at this early stage, the gameplay has bags of potential. Graphically, the settings already look impressive, and although what you see here appears limited to the old Wild West, we're promised even more locations in the finished version. Providing EA keep up the good work, we could be looking at a big hit this year.
Hands, Floyd. I'm taking you in.
Not to be outdone by LucasArts' Mercenaries, EA are also planning to go to war with their release of Battlefield 2. Developed from scratch by the team behind Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 2 will put you in charge of some of the most modern weapons available in a near-future war set in the Middle and Far East. The game will remain predominantly a multiplayer experience for up to 64 players online, though a single-player practice campaign is included too, alongside the other gameplay modes from Battlefield 1942. As usual, you start off on foot in a number of infantry roles, now including a Special Forces trooper who can call in precision laser-guided airstrikes and a heavy infantryman with a machine gun and body armour. But of course, you'll also be able to get into APCs, tanks and aircraft, covering ground faster and shooting the hell out of your foes in a much more satisfying way. With brand new, lush graphics the order of the day, Battlefield 2 will also be enhanced by a new game recording mode that will allow you to review missions after you've played them. With Battlefield Modern Combat on its way for consoles alongside this PC release, it looks like you're in for an explosive year online. Back to our countdown of top titles to look out for in 2005. The Matrix universe returns to games in a massively multiplayer online guise in the imaginatively titled The Matrix Online. The last Matrix video game, Enter the Matrix, was as disappointing as the last two films, but this massively multiplayer title looks like it's shaping up to be a winner. The action takes place after the final movie, with bands of human rebels still battling machine dominance inside a virtual world. Before you start performing acts of death-defying waifu, a trip to the tailors is required. After all, what self-respecting child of Zion would be seen dead without shades and a nice goth trench coat? With enough time and training, you'll perfect giant leaps with a single bound, martial arts and, of course, bullet-time gunplay. The final two movies stank like a bag of fish heads left in a hot car. This game may be a chance for the Matrix franchise to redeem itself when it's released early in the year. Et tu, Brute? Next up, a combination of sneaky stealth mystery and brutal gladiatorial combat that would make Russell Crowe wince. Shadow of Rome from Capcom features bloodthirsty rampages through the Colosseum with the muscle-bound Agrippa and puzzle solving with his weedy mate Octavianus. While Agrippa can wield an impressive number of weapons against human and animal foes, his power will have to rely on sneaking around and donning disguises to solve a murder mystery involving the Emperor. The addition of over-the-top gladiatorial combat to a stealth actioner brings a refreshing change to a genre that relies on hiding in the shadows and makes Shadow of Rome one to watch when it's released in the spring. From ancient Rome to the inner workings of a psychopath's mind in the quite frankly berserk Killer 7. First-person shooters are 10 a penny at the moment, but Killer 7's combination of lush, cel-shaded visuals and a story so weird it would give Marilyn Manson nightmares make it worthy of our attention. The lead character has 7 different personalities, each one possessing different skills, most of which seem to revolve around wiping out hordes of bad guys. The bad guys are some form of demons hell-bent on world domination. Definitely not a title for the faint-hearted, but the weirdness factor may just be enough to keep jaded FPS fans happy.
There's always time for fun.
With Sony and Nintendo having both launched new handhelds, you'd think their boffins and backroom boys would be due for a nice long holiday. But the big news in 2005 should be the announcement of all of the major manufacturers' next-generation consoles. Nintendo are playing their cards close to their chest about their new console, but we think Sony and possibly Microsoft will make announcements about their new machines at the E3 game show in May. For months, images have been circulating on the internet speculating what PS3 will look like. Sony has helpfully given us a taste of the next machine's logo, but that's about it. Rumours suggest Sony may release 2 different versions of the machine, one with a higher spec and price. We'll have to wait until May to confirm this speculation and to find out if PS3 will be backwards compatible. The same goes for the next generation Xbox. Speculative images are floating around the net suggesting what Xbox 2 will look like. News about its specification has been thin on the ground, but it does seem likely that Microsoft may try to trump Sony by announcing Xbox 2 sooner than we think. When Bankruptcy recently made Acclaim hang up their well-used gloves, the future of their modified car racer Juiced also looked bleak. But thankfully, like a knight in a shining Evo 8, THQ have come to the rescue. Thanks to them snapping up the rights, Juiced will now make it onto our consoles and PCs in time for some summertime street racing.
Hey, nice driving, man.
Juiced's take on the car modern phenomenon is refreshing. Going for a simulation-like handling style will bring this game closer to Gran Turismo realism than other, more arcade-focused titles.
I think the fact that we've got this kind of simulation feel to the physics in this sort of street modding scene is fairly new. Most of the products that have come out in this area have got much more of an arcadey feel, much more of a sort of facile treatment of the subject matter as well. So we treat the subject matter very seriously. It's very serious to the people who do it. You know, that's what they do. They live for it. That's what they work for. They earn the cash to spend on the cars. So you know the game reflects that.
Even with lifelike handling, for Juiced to succeed, it will also need a traffic jam of hard-tuned cars and a bigger range of cosmetic modifications than the Jackson family.
One area that the game has got really huge scope is in cars. You know, there's 49 individual car models in the game, which is quite a large number to start with, but each of those can be modded both visually and also in terms of performance. So, you know, there's a staggering number of combinations. You're talking about I think we're now at 7.2 trillion combinations, because you can change the bumpers on the cars, you can change the spoilers. We've even got you know, complex paint jobs on the car as well, things like pearlescent paint effects and special specular paints and stuff, so that you get real multicoloured layers on the car painting.
EA's top-selling Need for Speed Underground games might seem to have the market sewn up at the moment, but for our money, Juiced has enough nitrous in its tanks to overtake it, despite the false start. Well, that's about all we have time for in our special look ahead. What with new consoles in the handheld and home markets and top titles in the works for the current generation of consoles, 2005 looks set to be a very big year for games indeed. And you'll see them all on Gamer TV. Catch you next time.